We're going on a road trip to collect a lot of free computers in the $600 Toyota Corolla. And let's just say, not everything went to plan. Will this 32-year-old car get us there and back? Well, let's find out. Before you take your car on a long journey, here are some things I'd recommend. Check all the fluid levels in your car. I'm talking coolant, the reservoir as well, engine oil, and power steering fluid. Bring extra, and a small jumper battery because you never know when you're going to need it. Also, a small automotive toolkit is a must. I keep super glue, tape, and zip ties in a small container just in case you need to improvise. Good tires are also important for a long drive. Make sure they have adequate pressure and that the tread is good. Make sure the spare in your boot is also in good shape, but that's pretty useless unless you have your jack stand and tire iron. And it's not just your car's health that matters. Be sure to pack a first aid kit. I'd also recommend checking your drive belts. Hang on, my AC belt looks pretty bad, whereas the other two belts look completely fine, which is pretty odd. So let's change the drive belts. And to get to the AC belt, we'll have to remove this one and we might as well replace it at the same time. With the alternator loosened off, we can slip the belt off. After a fair amount of wiggling, I got it out. The main drive belt didn't look that great after a closer inspection, and the small power steering belt did look pretty good, so we left that. Now we get a better look at the air conditioning compressor belt. Tension is held using a small pulley, and with that loosened off, we should simply be able to slip the belt off. You can really see just how damaged this belt is, and one of the grooves has completely broken off and it's really cracked. But why was this belt so much worse than the others? Surely it would have been changed at the same time as the rest. And we were having great trouble getting the new belt on. It's the correct one for this engine, so it was time to jack up the car and get a better look. With the safety stand in place, we can remove the wheel. The tyres on here are virtually brand new, but I have no idea what condition the brake pads and rotors are in. And now we can see that it has about 9mm of brake pad left and the rotors are completely fine. And this pesky AC belt still won't go on easily. Even with the idler pulley loosened all the way off, we could only just slip the belt on. It turns out that someone installed the wrong sized pulley. So when the main drive belt goes back on, the pulley actually makes contact with that belt. Unless you tighten the pulley way too far, but then it'll quickly destroy the belt and it doesn't even sit on right. So we're going to have to run the car without air conditioning for this trip. The pulley that's in there is supposed to be 70mm, but the one that's actually in there is 85mm, and I simply have no time to source the part before I go because we had to do this on a weekend after hours just before I went on my trip. The only option is to run the car without air conditioning, which is totally fine to do. Alright, so here we go, we are ready to go. I'm already sweating. It's pretty hot out here today, and of course, as we've previously mentioned, no air conditioning. So I've checked all the fluids, we've got everything I needed to pack, I'm pretty sure. Let's start this car, and we'll hope it starts. On our first day, we're going to the lovely coastal town of Robe, 350 kilometres south of Adelaide, known for its extremely long beach, that you can even drive your car on. This is the first long distance drive I've actually done in the Corolla, and along the way I stopped at the Pink Lake. I think it needs a little more water, and it's been very dry here in South Australia recently. But what it lacked in pinkness, it more than made up for in shoeness. We've got heaps of distance left to travel, so back on the road. Our journey to Robe takes us along the Coorong, through many local towns with great bakeries and rest stops along the way. But something kinda went wrong. As I was shooting these drone shots, I actually got it stuck up in a very high tree. Yep, I just bought this drone and it was now sitting right up the top there. It took me a while to even work out exactly where it was, but believe me, it was well and truly stuck in there. And after asking the property owner if I could attempt to recover my drone, I taped some sticks to a light stand. I then very slowly began climbing the tall tree. I had to get up pretty high to even begin poking at it. Luckily, I was able to rescue it. There was no time to stop again during today's travel. The drone incident set me back well over an hour, and I had to get to reception at the caravan park. We're staying in the cheapest accommodation in Robe for only 70 Australian dollars a night. And after such a long drive, I made sure to let the old Corolla cool off. And what exactly do I get for my money? A fairly comfy looking bed, some little soaps and towels, a table, kitchen, a fridge, and microwave, and most importantly, an air conditioner. While my cabin may be basic, it at least has power. And if you're out camping or need electricity in an emergency, the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max might be just right for you. If you're after a truly portable power station that packs an impressive 2048 watt-hour capacity alongside a 2400 watt pure sine wave inverter, look no further. The amount of output and input options is really impressive. Summer is now here in Australia, and it's a great time to take advantage of the UV with the 220 watt EcoFlow portable solar blanket. Whether you're at home or out traveling, it's super easy and a convenient way to charge your power station. When I'm using the power station at home, I love to charge it at off-peak times to save money. And you can control all of this through the EcoFlow app. The Delta 2 Max also uses LFP lithium iron phosphate battery technology, which is not only safer, but has a vastly increased lifespan. That combined with the 5-year warranty means you've got years of worry-free, quiet, and safe power storage. Now is a great time to buy an EcoFlow power station, as they've got Boxing Day sales with up to 45% off. But this is for a limited time only. So click the links in the description to find out more, and thanks to EcoFlow for sponsoring today's video. After unpacking, I thought I would go and get some more B-roll footage of the area. And while getting a few of those shots, I left the car idling for a few minutes. And when I got back in, the temperature gauge was really high. So I quickly drove it back and parked it next to my cabin to see what the problem was. I noticed a trail of coolant on the ground as I drove back. It seemed to be coming from the thermostat housing. But was that really the reason it started suddenly overheating while idling? Actually no, it turns out that the radiator fan wasn't even plugged in. After a lot of problem solving and searching the engine bay, it turned out that the problem was pretty simple. A little hard to reach though. How long had it been unplugged for? Probably years to be honest, and this solved the cooling problem, but oh man did I really just think I was screwed. Once again a lot of time was lost problem solving, and I was now quite hungry, but options were a little limited. But you can always be assured that the local Chinese restaurant will be open. A succulent Chinese meal for me it seems. What an eventful day, hey? But at least I got food and the car hasn't blown up. I haven't eaten since breakfast. It is now 9 PM at night, but I've got some Chinese food, so I think it's time to dig in. This was a little more of an eventful day than I was bargaining for, let's just say that. So let's dig in. Prawn crackers. I don't know what those are, but they sounded good on the menu. Oh yeah. All right, let's try some of this. It looks pretty good. Oh my God, I'm so hungry. This really hits the spot. A good amount of spice and that sweet MSG flavor. That's really good. I really needed that. Let's try one of these. Can't remember what they are, but they sounded good at the time. I sort of hadn't read the menu. I just walked into the Chinese place and ordered what sounded good. They're like little curry triangles. That's pretty good as well. Well, you know what? Considering it was like 8:30 PM at night, this is pretty good. All the hotels had sort of stopped their dinner service probably an hour or two before. So we have a big day ahead of us tomorrow. And hopefully it all goes well now that we've worked out that the car required the fan to be connected. It had probably never been connected for months or years, but the cooling system on the Corolla is just that good that it ran fine without the fan connected. I just happened to let it idle for too long, and that's what caused it to overheat a bit. So the engine still seems good. I've driven it since. Big day tomorrow. We've got a lot of computers to pick up. I hope it goes well. The next morning, I made sure to check all the fluids in the car and removed as many of the dead bugs from the windshield as I could. Does the car still start? And today's journey will take us around 530 kilometers from Robe to Portland and back again, crossing the border over to the state of Victoria. And it was at this point that I needed some fuel for the car, and it took me quite a while to realize that the fuel station is completely unstaffed, requiring you to put your card info in before you fill. And fuel economy should be slightly better without the AC compressor being driven by the engine. By mid-afternoon, I'd made it to Portland in Victoria, a coastal town which happens to be the oldest European settlement in Victoria. All of the computers I'm collecting today belong to Roger, who initially reached out to me via email. He had left them with a couple called Bob and Jan who own this property here in Portland. I really appreciate their hospitality and the snacks they gave me for my journey back to Adelaide. There's a heap of interesting hardware in here, and we'll take a closer look once I've gotten it all back home. Notably, there are several of these compact portable computers, 3 of them to be precise, and I'm not sure what condition they're in though. There also seems to be an IBM portable computer with some parts missing, but it does look as if some of the parts may be in here, and fitting all this in safely is definitely possible, and I was sure to not have all the weight hanging over the back wheels. And to stop it moving around, I crammed in some towels, which works pretty well. The back seats also had to be filled to the brim. Thankfully, this car has good boot space, and with it all in, it was time to head back to Robe. Portland was a lovely place to visit, and I hope to go there again, that's for sure. And about 2.5 hours later, I was back in Robe once more. The Toyota had served me very well so far, a completely trouble-free day of driving. So I'm back in the cabin once again, had a shower and some microwave meals for dinner, nothing too fancy you could say. I managed to get back to Foodland 10 minutes before it closed, and I'm feeling a lot more refreshed now. It's been a long day and pretty warm without air conditioning. And I also noticed that all the cuts on my arms from climbing that tree are really starting to sting a bit. Either way, I'm gonna go for a little beach walk at night and see how it is down by the water. And I'm gonna wanna be up pretty early in the morning because it's gonna be 39 degrees Celsius back in Adelaide, which is gonna be very hot. Coming into that with a car with no AC is gonna be challenging. Let's hope the car doesn't overheat and we'll see how we go. It's a real shame that I haven't been able to enjoy this lovely beach during the day, but I'm sure I'll be back sometime in the future. The next day was well into the 30s by mid-morning, and as much as I would love to drive the Corolla on the beach and relax, I needed to get home, and I don't want to get it stuck in the sand. Once again, I crossed my fingers, and the car roared into life. This final 4-hour drive to Adelaide was going to test me. Not only was it going to be pushing 45 degrees Celsius in the cabin, the seat is not all that comfortable to say the least. And a quick rest stop by the Big Lobster is a must. The drive from Robe to Adelaide is pretty easy, with most of it being on a highway, and staying hydrated and stopping every hour or so kept me cool enough, thankfully. And I can confirm that the cooling fan does actually work now that it's plugged in. By 2:30 PM, I'd made it home, with the outside temperature cracking 40 degrees Celsius. The old Toyota had survived the journey and clearly has a lot of life left in it. But there's clearly not a lot of life left in all these bugs it's squished along the way. Now we get a good look at all the interesting hardware in our possession. Does any of it work? We'll have to find out, as I've never asked Roger that question. I particularly want to get this IBM up and running if possible. Maybe that's where this hard disk comes from. But honestly, acquiring all this tech at once was a bit overwhelming. Where will I put it all? I don't actually know. And funnily enough, I'm pretty sure the newest computer is this one, with a Core 2 quad CPU. For now, let's take a closer look at the compact portables. While they are technically portable, they aren't small or lightweight at all, and given how many we've got, I hope to at least get one of them up and running. Oddly enough, 2 of them have 5.25 inch floppy drives and the other one has a 3.5 inch one. So let's plug them in and see exactly what happens, shall we? Along with the keyboard that detaches, the display also pivots upwards to a more ergonomic position. The mechanism feels pretty strong, likely why it's lasted 37 years. It also looks like there is some screen burn-in, which might happen since it uses gas plasma display technology. And once powered on, the fans spin, but nothing else happens. This particular model has a 20 MHz 386. Very impressive for a portable from 1987. At least it shows some signs of life. Now on to the next one. And if you know anything about these machines, please let me know in the comments section below. And just like the first one, the keyboard cable is also falling apart. And when powered on, something seems to happen on screen. Clearly, this isn't working correctly, and I can just make out the words memory error. And how about the last of the 3 compact portables? That didn't sound good. Oh, it's smoking! Well, that is less than ideal, you could say, and I'm going to guess those were capacitors that just burst. I plan to fix one of these up in the future, given all the spare parts I've got here. And along with the spares, there is also a heap of expansion card bays that clip right onto the back of these machines. Well, that sure was quite a journey, wasn't it? And big thanks to Roger for giving me those computers. I look forward to covering them more in depth in future videos. That little Toyota thankfully got us there and back in one piece, and I'll hopefully be able to get the correct size pulley very soon so I can have working air conditioning once again. A big thank you to EcoFlow for sponsoring this video, and also a big thanks to the channel members that continue to support my work, and you guys that watch the videos. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.